We love him. He's got great information. He's online at on3.com. He's a part of the podcast that you can find. Him and Shay Dixon do a great job over at On3 with the Bengal Tiger podcast. And weekly, he's here with us, helping us out on some rules stuff, transfer portal stuff, recruiting, all of it. Bill, good morning. How are you?
Doing well, guys. How are you?
How's that sleep schedule?
We're up early. And we're up throughout the night still. So it's going well, though. It's going well. Little guy is 1 month. Jack joined us a month ago today. So
start early,
nice little
late,
start to the day.
There you go, Jack.
Embody sounds like a name.
He does, buddy.
Kid's a stud.
It's a 40 on him. Bert. All right, so Bill, give me real quick little rules help here. Transfer portal closes tonight. So this is just the last day you can announce if you're going in?
Yep, this is the last day you can enter, and then schools have 48 hours to submit that paperwork and then have them in the portal. So you could theoretically see a couple of stragglers into Thursday maybe for some schools, depending on how quickly those compliance offices want to submit that paperwork. And this next 18 hours or so is the final stretch for these coaches, and once they get through them, they can put that phone down and maybe get a little sleep, because right now it's a lot of babysitting going on, a lot of roster babysitting, because you don't want any surprises. That's the goal if you're a coaching staff, is to get out of here without any surprise transfer portal entries, because some of these collectives, as we've talked about, can talk to these players regardless of if they're, in the transfer portal or not at this point. So that's the Wild West piece of this, and that's what makes all of this that much more tedious for coaches. I
was at Phil's Oyster Bar last night, and that was the spot to be.
Great spot.
Dominic Williams was in there. Bo Davis was in there. Jamario Rasco was in there. Sherman Williams was in. I mean, the whole crew was in there. Where does LSU stand on these defensive tackles?
Well, first of all, we know who to blame if he doesn't go to LSU. Jordy, you're crashing the party in there. LSU sits in a good spot here. I mean, this is the thing, and we've talked about this on the Bengal Tiger with our subscribers, is that LSU wouldn't be hosting these kids if they're not competitive in the NIL space. They're hosting Dominic Williams from TCU. They've hosted Simeon Barrow from Michigan State. These are top flight defensive tackles in the transfer portal, and LSU is positioned among a few schools that are battling pretty much for the same guys to land these guys. And Dominic Williams actually camped at LSU as a high school prospect, didn't end up getting, I don't think he ended up getting the offer from the Tigers, but ended up working out for him as he was able to go build a really solid resume at TCU, and now enters the portal as one of the top defensive tackles in the country available. And so LSU's done a really nice job here getting the last visit. It's always at least a good thing on paper. Dominic Williams does want to make a decision this week, and if you can make a nice last impression on him, that should position them well, and that's all you can ask for. And there's schools like Miami who are very desperate as well for defensive tackles. And when you look at LSU and Miami, it kind of appears like they're battling it out for Dominic Williams and Simeon Barrow. Texas and Oklahoma are also in the mix for Williams. And Missouri had a really nice trip with him as well. So this is the hard part of this for coaches, but also for Dominic Williams. He's got to make a decision that will change his life, and he's got to make it off of a week-long, week and a half run of visits. And anywhere he ends up, he's going to be well taken care of in NIL. It's just a matter of where he's going to end up that he feels best about. And I think LSU has done a nice job here working his transfer recruitment. So they've got a shot. I mean, that's all you can ask for. The visit is really going to pick up today. They got in, mid-late afternoon yesterday. So as you can imagine, you get them well fed and kick off the visit in the right way with the trip to Phil's.
Bill, is it too shallow to think that, this week really kind of defines what LSU is going to be in the fall? I watched them in the spring, and feel very confident that their offense, again, is championship contending worthy. And when you look at the defense, they've got pieces that you feel okay about. And if they land defensive tackles, they feel like they go from almost a pretender to a contender on that side. So if they land, Barrow and Williams, are they kind of contending overnight?
Yeah, I would. If they can land Barrow and Williams, they would be contending overnight. I think with the competitiveness of the defensive tackle recruiting market in the transfer portal, you probably see them go their separate ways. It's just kind of tough to see that happening. Doesn't mean it can't, not, completely ruling it out, but just with what you have to put together, it just seems like you're going to come away with one, and that's all you could ask for if that does happen. And that would seriously upgrade your defense with that talent in the middle between whichever one of those guys LSU can pick up if they can. That would be a major boost. I still think corner is a major issue for this defense. Safety still needs to see some improvement. The offense, Garrett Nussmeier showed in the bowl game, he's got the ability to move it up and down the field, but they're also going to be replacing 2 first-round draft picks at wide receiver. They need Caleb Jackson to be that dude right away alongside Josh Williams. About the talent up front returning. So they've got pieces. They just really need this defense to add a defensive tackle, a starting quality one like a Dominic Williams, Simeon Barrow. They've added a depth piece and Gio Paez, and that makes you feel better. But this defense still will be in a transition year. I just feel like it also can't get much worse than last year, which if you see an improvement, that would be big for LSU's chances to make it to Atlanta.
Bill, obviously we had all heard the lore of Bryce Underwood and known that he's the top player in the cycle. He's the number 1 quarterback in the country, even after the readjustments, the reevaluations, and the re-rankings. He's still number 1. To watch him on that 7-on-7 field was something different. I know that football is not 7-on-7, but some of the throws he made out there was truly, just wow type highlights. Did you see the team flow in Orlando, and what did you make of that team being put together and the run they made? Yeah,
first of all, just shout out to some 7-on-7 OGs putting that one together. You know who you are, and that is a really impressive group of LSU commits and targets that they have running around out there. First and foremost. But look, 7-on-7, the great thing about it is, and people, say it's not real football, which is fine. It's not under the lights and on, with the pads on, but you can see the athleticism very quickly of some of these guys that, can play at the highest of high levels. 7-on-7 is where you can see a guy like a Derek Stingley or Jamar Chase or Terrace Marshall and know that barring injuries and them keeping their head on straight, they can go on to the NFL and be a first-round draft pick. That's what you can see, and so you can rule in guys pretty quickly. You can rule out guys pretty quickly that can't run and move, and that's where 7-on-7 really helps. And for these quarterbacks, you can see the arm talent. You can see the ability to put velocity on the ball and fit it into tight windows, because it's still a very competitive space for these prospects. They're earning themselves scholarships and they're earning themselves opportunities and obviously a little bit of rankings influence as well, which ultimately helps their stock, which ultimately helps their NIL in a way. It's all an opportunity for these guys to show what they've got. And Bryce Underwood has nothing to prove out there, but he still went out there and competed and put together a really impressive weekend. And you saw some of those flash throws. And that's part of the reason why LSU, really coveted him, as did many other programs.
Are we sure Harlem Barry's a running back?
In today's day and age, he's a running back. He might be like a little bit of a slot option there, I think, but I think running back is the way to go with him. They're going to be able to do so many different things with him, and be able to get him the ball in space in the screen game, I think, and just be able to allow him to be moved around a little bit. But, running backs to be, 3 down backs, you've got to be able to catch the football, and Harlem Barry can do that. And, you see in the NFL now, 3rd down backs. I mean, you sub them in and they can make their living catching the football. They can make their living picking up the yards that you need on the ground. And that's what Harlem Barry can do. And it'll be a matter of him transitioning to the higher level of competition that LSU will be. But he's got all that talent. And you see it on the 7-on-7 field manifest itself. And he's been able to be dominant on the high school stage. So he's a very, very talented athlete. But, yes, he's a running back. Don't let the battle begin between Frank Wilson and Cortez Hankton on that one.
He made some beautiful catches on Saturday and Sunday.
Is newly minted Heisman winner Reggie Bush too big of a comp for Harlem Barry? Because it feels like their game is very similar.
No, and it's not to put pressure on him and say he'll be Reggie Bush. It's just the style. And Jamal Charles is another one that our rankings team has used with him. But Cody Belair, who worked at LSU, worked in a couple other Power 5 personnel departments, is a part of our rankings team as our national scout. And we had him on our podcast, and I kind of threw that out there too. And he agreed. He said, you don't want to put it on there because you're talking about one of the greatest athletes of all time to play the position. But that style, that athleticism, it is kind of there with Harlem Barry.
Aiden Huntington is a name that is just going into the portal from North Louisiana. Any interest there? Is this a name to watch out for?
Yeah, LSU is doing their due diligence there. I feel like with a guy like that being in state, I mean, they're going to go through and evaluate him, and especially at a position of need. And he was an all Sun Belt guy over at ULM. And so they still need to address the defensive tackle position if they can with another depth piece. If they do, even if they get Dominic Williams and or Simeon Barrow, that's still a position that they feel like they need to address. So if they can, I would think he's a quality name to have on the list. We'll see if they end up liking what they see on tape there. But, yeah, he just went in a name to know, a name to keep an eye on, and we'll see if any other defensive tackles go in the portal here.
Billy, as far as recruiting goes right now, obviously everybody's talking about the transfers, but where does the calendar lay as far as high school recruiting is concerned?
Yeah, the month of May is a great time for coaches to get out and watch spring practices, spring games. Bo Davis was up in the Dallas area seeing some defensive tackle targets. They've been around the country seeing some of their top recruiting targets that we've been able to see, kind of out there, and just get out and recruit and evaluate and hand out new offers as well. And that's what this time of year is about. You'll still see some guys pop up on campuses for visits, but for LSU, June is really, and particularly that first weekend of June, is shaping up to be a monster recruiting weekend with guys like Khalid Lockett and DJ Pickett coming to town. It's going to be a who's who in Baton Rouge that weekend, and then they've got a couple other weekends in June that they'll, of course, host visitors as well. But June is the real big official visit month. May is kind of a coaches get out and evaluate. You'll see some official visits happen across the country, and maybe LSU hosts a guy here or there, but June is really when Brian Kelly and his staff are going to go into overdrive on those official visits. And then we'll see many prospects start to make decisions in July. Some will make their decision and commit on a visit and end up, announcing later on or things like that. But it's a critical period of time for these coaching staffs.
Bill, listener question, update on Jonah Williams, 5-star safety out of Galveston, Texas.
Yeah, Jonah Williams is a really, really intriguing prospect. He's a stud baseball player as well. He wants to play baseball wherever he goes. So LSU is obviously pitching that option. It's something that takes a lot of time and commitment to do that. You still got to go to school as well. But LSU is going to give him that option. Texas and Oklahoma are in there as well. And I would say that's at least – I'm pretty sure where most people are handicapping this race right now. I know Ohio State had a really impressive visit for him. He's been out to Oregon. A&M is in there, but most people are talking about Texas, Oklahoma, and LSU too. Blake Baker is recruiting him to play safety. Blake Baker's high school coach, I believe, is the head coach at Galveston Ball. So there's some connections there that they're trying to work. They've had him on campus once this spring. They're going to host him the second weekend of June for an official visit. So that'll be a big opportunity for LSU to really make a big move in this recruitment and go from among the contenders to maybe a true top contender.
Bill, how the hell does Mo Hampton still have eligibility?
Speaking of baseball,
how's John Emery? I mean, it's
Chris Curry.
Y'all stop speaking poorly about my guys. Those are all my friends.
No, I
mean, I love
them. If I could go to college for 7 years, I would have. Where was COVID?
A lot of people go to school for 7 years. Yeah, they're called doctors.
I mean, hell, this would all worked out great for me back in the day.
You mean to tell me I can go to
kick
LSU?
The can down the road a little bit. Let's not go to real life.
I mean, is that what this is? Is this still like the COVID hangover?
They just don't want to be an NCAA.
Yeah, so I think John a true freshman on the 2019 team.
Yeah.
All these guys were.
He played.
All of them were.
He played, and then 2020 doesn't count at all. And then he sat out 21.
Tell that to Edo.
And then, and then 22 played, 23
played,
but he's got a medical in there, I think, where he can get another year. Yeah. So
well, technically, they've all only been in school for 4 years.
I've done the math. He can do it.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's
crazy, and he
man.
gets I've read somewhere that he gets if you're on track to graduate after you've been, obviously, the academic decathlon he went through where he was suspended, but if you're on track to graduate, you're allowed to apply for essentially a academic hardship. If you're showing that you're making progress toward a degree, you can get another year and appeal that process. So he can play another year if he wants to.
Wow. I love it.
Me too.
Hell yeah. Why not?
Keep it going.
NCAA 2026, he'll be in there.
He was not only my favorite player, he was my son's favorite player. We both watch him play.
He's a classic.
Bill, have a great day.
You guys too. Appreciate you guys.
There he is, Billy Embody.
So
follow his work
this room
at Billy Embody. It's a great backdrop.
He just he pulled off a absolute, just fished his wife into, I guess we'll have a kid. I guess I'll just make the living room my room.
Well, it did sound like some utensils were clanging in the background. So like the kitchen sounds like it's closed.